Well, hello there everyone! Final Fantasy Adventure is one of the weirdest entries in the Final Fantasy series. Because it's not actually a Final Fantasy game, it's actually the start of the Mana franchise. Although the Mana franchise is technically a series of fairy tale storybooks in the Final Fantasy universe, but there isn't really one set Final Fantasy universe, so screw it. This is basically Square Enix saying, hey, what if we made our own Legend of Zelda game with blackjack and hookers? I'm kidding, of course, there's no blackjack in this game. But overall, despite the orange color palette salting my eyes, it's not a bad game. And overall, it has a surprisingly beefy roster of 21 bosses to rank, many of which would actually become staples in this series, although, as you can probably guess, they are pretty primitive for the time, so no tears are going to be found here. Without further ado, let's get to ranking these bosses from worst to best, shall we? Number 21, Hydra. Hydra is a terrible boss fight. A two-headed fire-breathing dragon isn't the worst idea in the world, but when he's in the middle of water that looks like lava due to the color palette, you have to wait for him to get close to strike, and his head doesn't really like to get close. Alternatively, you can try to rely on your red mage partner to assist you, but this is an old Game Boy game. AI-controlled party members are garbage on a good day, and so is this boss fight. It's not fun, and considering this is the first true boss of the game, it doesn't leave the best first impression. I mean, there is one fight before it, but that's a tutorial with nothing in it, and we'll get to that later. Number 20, Lich. Oh boy, I sure do love fighting a massive projectile spammy boss while cramped in an arena the size of a shoebox. Yeah, this fight ain't doing it for me. He's one of the hardest fights in the game, not for any clever design, but just due to half the arena being basically a hitbox at all times. Or, alternatively, he'll be busy flying off screen and firing at you from out of your reach, and you just kinda gotta wait for him to come back. It's stupid, it's frustrating, and honestly, why is the arena so freaking small here? It doesn't make any sense. Number 19, Mantisant. Now we're beginning the entries of bosses that just sorta move into you in order to attack, and Mantisant gets a spot on here at the very bottom of that mini list because of the seemingly forced damage you have to take for entirely too much HP when you come in. We're gonna see a lot of bosses that are just kinda dudes that move around and have a lot of HP, and most of them with a gimmick will be placed higher because it makes the fight more interesting, but in the case of Mantisant, it makes the battle worse, so it's getting here at number 19. Number 18, Garuda. Now we get to Garuda, who has basically nothing unique going on for him, other than he can fly kind of far. And for these next few bosses, they just sort of move back and forth as their attack. I'm going by the idea of the earlier in the game, the higher the placement here. I have nothing to say about this fight. Number 17, Ifrit. He looks cool, but he's just another boss that moves around the arena to attack you. At least he gives plenty of damage windows, which is kinda nice because his health bar is about the size of Rhode Island. Number 16, Full Metal Hugger. Well, this boss gets a couple of points for legacy since he became a recurring boss in the series, and the lava-heavy arena does actually make things a bit more interesting here. Unlike other bosses, though, he's going to bounce around the arena, but he'll also shuffle around a little bit before heading down and bouncing off a wall. The weirdest thing is how if you stand on the bridge for most of the fight, you can basically no damage it with your eyes closed. I actually like this boss's design a lot, but the fight itself is nothing special. Number 15, the Jackal. The last boss that just moves back and forth, the Jackal gets the highest because he's literally the very first thing you fight in the game. Easy as heck, but I suppose a gladiatorial battle as a tutorial is better than nothing at all, and probably better than overly text-heavy. Number 14, Chimera. The Chimera is a boss that is kind of like Ifrit, where he hangs out at the top of the screen a lot, but will come down to attack you with a moving around the arena attack. However, he gets a few points because he has an extra twin fireball attack that can be capitalized on in order to get off some easy hits, and he does take place earlier in the game. Also, it's funny how the boss that came before Ifrit is basically just a more complex version of that fight. On one hand, I'm kind of impressed that they have 21 bosses, but on the other hand, you can kind of tell some of these probably could have been cut from the game. Number 13, Vampire. A lot of what Vampire does is float around the arena, but instead of trying to attack you with his body, he's really just going to unleash his bats out towards you. There's not really much to this fight, but I guess that should be a blessing considering how much of a pain in the ass he is in Visions of Mana. Number 12, the Dark Lord. Our big battle with the main villain of the game, the Dark Lord, is a no-nonsense sword duel. That actually sounds really awesome on paper, but after a few seconds you quickly realize why classic Zelda games never made a boss of this style. It's not the worst thing ever, but it's just an awkward battle, and you might think, well, this is just phase 1, but here's the thing, there is no phase 2. This type of boss works great in modern action RPGs, but pretty much on any old Game Boy game, there's a reason why you don't see this style of boss fight. The game pretends he's the big bad for the first half, but it's pretty clear he's not really the big cheese, he's just Lord Bale. Number 11, Golem. Golem is another one of those bosses that can shuffle back and forth, but his battle is a lot more exciting than others because it's still fairly early in the game, and he actually has a charge attack with 2 different variations, either heading directly towards you or heading directly downwards. The speed of his attack actually makes things a little bit hectic, and it can be enjoyable, and it kind of reminds me of the Dekudon boss fight from Link's Awakening, if I'm being honest, which, hey, not the worst thing in the world to remind me of, I like that dungeon. Number 10, Dragon. We engage in knighthood's finest calling in a serviceable battle. The dragon moves around some, trying to hit you with fireballs, as well as just run into you. It kind of is like Aqua Mintus from Zelda 1, just with a more detailed sprite, but sadly it lacks the HP to be a serious threat. Number 9, Red Dragon. Okay, this dude is the exact same sprite as the dragon boss fight right before him, but now he has more HP. But I guess that also means you actually get to engage with his moveset, which is nice even if the name is stupid and makes no sense unless you're playing the remake. I have nothing else to say here, it's the same boss with more health, and it immediately follows the first dragon battle. But at the same time, that more HP means you actually deal with it a little bit longer, which makes the fight a bit more engaging. Number 8, Merilith. Merilith is the first boss in the game that takes place after the Dark Lord is slain. As such, she's where the game can get harder, as her battle has her staying on the right side of the screen, but she can fire out a triple shot projectile that requires active positioning to dodge. She also has a charge attack to run into you, and she can stab you with her tail if you just try to camp out below her. And she can also end her charge with a tail stab as well. Overall, it's not bad. It shows the game isn't running out of steam in the second half, which I appreciate. Number 7, Megapede. At first I thought about putting this guy down with all the other bosses that just kind of run around, but he's a very early game boss fight, and his AI actually is a little bit different as he likes to circle the arena, then leave out through one of the holes, and then pop in through a different hole, instead of doing the same movement pattern over and over again, so it gives the fight some variation. It's still an easy boss, but one I can actually have some fun with because there's more going on here than some of the other fights, even ones that come much after it. Number 6, Kraken. I like this boss mainly because he looks like he's dancing along with the boss music, which is kind of neat and also kind of funny. Either way, it's another easy boss, but he actually gets a few points because he kind of jump scares the player by showing up when you're just crossing a bridge. The Kraken can only whack you with his tentacles, but you have to go right into the lion's den in order to actually deal damage against him. I enjoy this boss, and him jamming out to the boss music is a charming little detail. It's not hard in the slightest, but hey, it doesn't need to be. Number 5, Cyclops. The best of the moving back and forth bosses, Cyclops will swing around his Morning Star to hit you, but he's also able to throw it outwards towards the player. He can also charge across the arena and combine his charge and his throw attack together, making this fight surprisingly very hectic, and this is actually a pretty early game boss fight as well, making him one of the more challenging fights in the game. But he's also got more going on than a lot of late game bosses, so I don't know, I like him. I don't think he's too hard, and I also don't think he's a boss you can just spam, so that makes him fun for me. Number 4, the Dragon Zombie. Unlike being just a reskin of the dragons, it's actually a reskin of the Hydra, but it's undead, so it looks different. And also the fight doesn't suck. Actually, it arguably is the Hydra that you killed, and while this can be seen as a lazy reskin, which is surprisingly rare in this game, I honestly really like the idea behind this fight. The aggression of the Hydra combined with a new charge attack and the arena actually giving you enough room to move around and fight him is pretty cool. And my personal headcanon is that the Hydra you killed got its corpse repurposed by Julius, since he was the red mage that was helping you then. And hey, if you're gonna reuse any boss in the game, one of the first bosses is usually a pretty good pick. Not a bad choice for the game's penultimate battle. Number 3, Medusa. Medusa is yet another boss to move around the arena hazardously, but she can also let loose her snakes that can also poison you if they hit. It's an early game boss as well, so it gets a few points there. But the real driving force here is actually the story, as we need her tears to cure an illness, but unfortunately there's no tears to be found when you kill her. And if Medusa bites a woman, they will turn into Medusa herself, which leads to Amanda getting bitten and infected. She realizes you can use her tears for the cure, but you'll also need to kill her so she doesn't become a monster that attacks people. And the game will not advance until you press the attack button to kill her. Metal Gear Solid 3 stole this. Number 2. Davius. Davius is presented as one of the game's big bads, and he must have been commuting with an old one because he turns into this Cthulhu-looking motherfucker when you fight him. This fight is brief, but the pure aggression of Davius between his fire barrier and the fireballs he shoots out at you make him actually a much tougher foe than most other bosses in the game. And you have points here because you're fighting alongside Lester, who is none too happy at his wife Amanda being dead. No one tell him that was me. On top of that, he's also like the one AI party member that's not completely brain dead. And he gets a few extra bonus points for being one of only 3 bosses in the game to use the second boss theme in the game, or boss theme 2. The others being the Dark Lord and phase 2 of the final boss fight. Number 1, Julius. Well, if the Dark Lord is essentially Lord Baal, then Julius would be Sindri. Can you tell I've been playing Dawn of War recently? Anyways, Julius was either gonna be at the top of the list or the bottom of the list because he's the most involved fight in the game, sporting 3 separate phases when every other boss only has a single phase. Phase 1 is basic, as you just battle Julius and his shadow clones that die in not even 40 seconds. There's no sort of time limit here, but they're gonna die really fast. Then you get to phase 2 of the battle, where Julius turns into an archdemon, and he's got a decent array of attacks here, such as lunging kicks, bum rushing you, and classic fireballs. It's also probably the coolest looking boss fight in the game, and you get the third and final instance of boss theme 2 playing here. It's also by far the hardest of the 3 phases, and one of the few bosses in the game I'd consider genuinely kind of tough. The final phase is actually a lot easier, but it is cool that he has a third phase, where you'll see him teleport around the arena and throw out fireballs as you battle at the base of the mana tree. Fuji is also there as well to be not very helpful, but I guess she can occasionally heal you, so this last phase is more of a cathartic beatdown, with a pretty good for the time final boss theme. Now, finding the music files for this game is very hard to do because Square Enix is Square Enix, so I ripped them myself. For the 3 viewers that have actually played this game, this number 1 spot probably isn't that surprising, but regardless, I hope you enjoyed the video anyways. And that's all for this video. This was actually a video I had scripted up a while ago, but it took me a long time to actually go and finalize things. Probably weird to have this boss ranking be my follow-up to the Sekiro one, but hey, after a larger video, I think it's a good idea to take things easy for a bit. Anyways, that's all I've got for now. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, like, comment, subscribe, and all that other shilling stuff. I mean, hey, if you've watched this far, clearly you find my videos interesting enough to sit through it and we're past the point of morbid curiosity. And I will see you all next time. Take care.